Hello and welcome to our show, Film Talk with AJ Dean. I'm AJ Dean, your host, and I have the impeccable, incredible, phenomenal actor and co-host with me, Paul Vato. Paul, how are you today?
I'm wonderful, and I feel that you left out the word wonderful, but other than that, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, AJ. I'm so excited to talk to Adam, and it's been an amazing weekend being 4th of July.
Yes.
I feel like I used to be happier, but that being said, here we are.
Well, you are very wonderful. And speaking of wonderful, we do have Adam Vargas here with us. He's a director, producer, and writer. He's also been part of production crew, amazing, throughout TV and movies. He was born in New York, and I know he likes hot sauce on his watermelon. Let's give a warm welcome to Adam Vargas. Hey, Adam, it's so great you're here.
It's great to be here, AJ. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, welcome.
You've already answered all my questions because I knew that your name was Adam. I didn't realize it was Vargas. I'm like, oh, is this guy Latino? But the second you go, I like hot sauce on my watermelon, like 100%, this guy is Latino. I'm guessing Puerto Rican, but only because you're from New York.
Mexican. But yeah, I see why you've made that guess. There are no Mexicans in New York.
There are no Mexicans in New York, but Mexicans are the only ones that will take something as delicious and healthy as fruit and vegetables, and then let's throw some. I mean, hot sauce is fine, but then let's throw something that makes us bloated. How about some salt and some tagine or whatever it is that's called, which sounds Arabic. I have no idea what called tagine or
tagine.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I already have so many questions for you, and I have stories about back in the 1900s going to New York and finding 0 Mexicans. So at least now there's one. So God bless.
Yeah, when I was growing up there, me and my brothers were anomalies because we were like the only Mexicans. We knew, tons of Puerto Ricans, Salvadorians,
Dominicans.
You name it. Yeah, Dominicans, Cubans, no Mexicans.
0. Okay, so sorry, AJ. I didn't mean to hijack the show already, but it just now I'm just 100% so fascinated with Adam Vargas.
Adam, speaking of being in New York and from New York, your whole family is, right? Are they all from New York?
Yeah. My parents moved there, though. They were originally, my dad was from Michigan and my mom was from Pennsylvania, but both by way of Texas.
I'm sorry, did you say your dad was from Michigan, Quan?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a Michicano.
He's like, I say I'm a Chicano from Chicago. So, wait, so I feel like when my dad ran for the border, he ran, but then he kept running. He got as far as Chicago, but your dad actually his parents actually got as far as Michigan?
Yeah.
Jesus, they almost went to Canada.
They almost went to Canada.
Oh.
I love this. I love it. And so, Adam, you have worked on some incredible movie sets, and I have a couple posters on tap here on the screen. Sex and the City and Law and Order: Criminal Intent from NBC season 6. Now, can you tell us a little bit about Sex and the City and then also Law and Order?
Yeah. So I only worked one day on the Sex and the City film, but a good friend of mine, he was the key PA in either the 2nd unit or 3rd unit. I don't remember. They had quite a few units on that film. But we were working with principals. It was a scene with the character, I believe her name is Charlotte, the one with darker hair, and her husband. I don't remember his name. He was just, I don't know, he was like the bald guy, right? And I've only seen like 2, maybe 3 episodes of that show. But because that was also during a time when I was working a lot. So, oh, actually, Sex in the City was out when I was touring a lot. Because actually, I remember I was on tour in Richmond, Virginia, and the people.
Are you talking music tour when you were touring?
Yes, yeah, when I was playing with bands.
Tell us about that.
And I sat in our hosts that we were staying with were having like a Sex in the City watch party, because it was like the season finale or something like that. But this was a few seasons before the end of the show. So I think that was the first time I ever saw it. But the funny thing about that day was working on Sex in the City was we saw Bill Murray, and he wasn't part of the shoot or anything. We were leaving the set after filming in outside Rockefeller Center, and we were maybe 2 blocks away, and Bill Murray was going by in a rickshaw and just waving to people. And it was pretty funny because we were like, is that Bill Murray?
Is that a New York thing? Because I would have been like, oh, were you guys working in Singapore or in Hong Kong?
That was New York. Yes.
Is that a
rickshaws? Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, those are a thing there.
Okay, see, that's how long it's been since I've been to New York. I was in New York back in the 1900s. A friend of mine got hired by Saturday Night Live, and he was gracious enough to invite me to his first show. This would have been 97, 98, I think 98, maybe late 97 or 98. And it was his first show at SNL. And that's when I first met Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin. They reprised their roles of those two wild and crazy guys.
Yeah.
But back then, there were also like no Mexicans in I remember going, where can I go get a taco? And they're like, it's not here.
Yeah.
Like I literally, and it was such a crazy experience. I'm gonna maybe put this out on the podcast because I met Linda Tripp's son randomly in a cab. I got taken up to Spanish Harlem, saw a murder on my first day. There's all these crazy things that happen. But being at SNL, I didn't wait. But even back then, there were no Mexicans and there were no rickshaws. You're telling me now that there are rickshaws, and like is it Asian dudes pulling you on a rickshaw?
Yeah, it's like someone pulling it. Yeah, not on foot though, with like usually like a bike.
Okay, thank God, because can you imagine me, this 300-pound guy showing up, and they're like, "Ay, Dios mío, no." I mean, I had the same thing almost happened to me in Cuba. That's another story, but yeah. Okay, sorry. Go on.
You could sit on the handlebars. No, Paul? Yes?
No, because I'm pretty sure if I sit on the handlebars, they're gonna fall in, and the middle of the handlebar is gonna go right up the old.
Oh, okay. We'll put that idea aside.
Yes. So there are rickshaws in New York City now, but there's still no Mexicans outside of my family.
I believe it. I honest to God believe it. And even though now people are like, oh no, there's plenty of taquerias. I'm like, well,
they're Korean owned.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say, Puerto Rican owned, but sorry, Puerto Rican, but there's definitely no Mexicans except you and your other white family in.
Yeah, there are some taquerias, but they're mostly Korean owned. But they're bomb.
I'll bet they are.
They're great.
Anyang Hase no.
I love a good taco. Tacos are my favorite. Yeah. And speaking of good things and good tacos, I did want to ask one other thing about Law and Order: Criminal Intent. You worked on season 6, right, Adam?
Yes.
And so how much fun was that? That was a huge, incredibly popular series. One of the very best. And what's your takeaway of that time?
Yeah, it was amazing. I started filming had already begun when I started. Maybe a week into filming, I started. I came onto the crew, and on my second day, Vincent D'Onofrio was telling a story about Stanley Kubrick to Rip Torn, and I was just like, "What's going on right now?" like this is too wild, you know? I mean, like, I remember Rip Torn from as young as like his appearances on Alfred Hitchcock Presents and things like that. And you know, Stanley Kubrick's been one of my favorite directors since I was maybe not even a teen. And you know, I'd seen Full Metal Jacket so many times, and to have D'Onofrio in front of me telling a story about it to Rip Torn, it was just so wild. And I was just like, I never want to leave this industry.
What
That
was your position, or what were you doing on that show?
So I worked in props primarily, but I worked in a lot of the art departments. Sometimes I was working with the production designer, um, like a head of shooting, doing set dressing, and sometimes I was doing scenic work. So like I would I had to do one time like this huge memorial wall. It was close to 9/11, you know, and had to do with firefighters, the episode. And so there was like this memorial wall with pictures of, you know, people who had died in the towers. And that's my son,
There is
Chencho.
someone behind you, so you know you're about to get murdered.
There is Chencho.
What's his name?
Chencho. His full name, Adam Hawk Inocencio Owen Vargas.
Must
Cool.
you must you people always be such a stereotype? And let me guess, you have no middle name. You're just Adam Vargas, but yet you
No, I have a middle name.
Middle name is Daniel, right?
Correct. And
I love that.
I share that middle name with at least 3 or 4 cousins. And I have, and there's one cousin. There's one cousin that's his first name.
But now you decided to really stick it to your son and give him 4 names, 5 names.
What does he have? You have 4 names? Yeah, 4 names. His name was going to be different, and then he was born.
It should have been like Mike.
Yeah, Mitia, oh gosh, she saw his face, and she was like, he looks like your grandpa, your great grandfather, Inocencio. And he did, especially because he was born with like a U of hair. So he just had the ring of hair, but nothing on top. And they look like dead ringers of each other.
I feel like this is like a native thing. Like
so yeah, we had to give him the name. And they had the same birthday too. So he was literally born on his birthday, like almost 100 years later.
But I like that this filled in though.
Yeah, eventually it did. Say hi, Chencho.
Hi.
He's being shy.
He's so shy.
Hi,
He
how are
is,
you?
but he isn't also. He likes
Sweet.
to get on stage.
That's so awesome. And so hello, and thank you so much for being there with us and with your dad. And your dad is so cool. And I have a request, Adam. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you got into music and touring? How did you get into all of that?
Yeah, I started playing music when I was really young, and all my siblings played music, and we started. I graduated young, like 14, and I didn't want to go to college right away. I started some businesses and things like that, but me and my brothers would go to a lot of shows in New York, and um, it just, we eventually just started playing in bands. Well, prior to that, we started a publication about the New York music scene, primarily about local bands. We did interview some like larger acts and stuff like that, but the main focus was local New York acts. And
Like,
um,
I'm sorry, like a zine?
yes, yeah, exactly. And so through that, we became really popular. Like everybody started to know who we were. And also through that, we became friends with a lot of these musicians and stuff, some of whom are still professional musicians. And like, it's so wild. Like, I have friends that have played the Louvre and Grand Ole Opry and what's the opera house in like Australia, and like, all these big places that are just like, not just anybody plays at these venues. But yeah, it's wild. So from that, me and my brothers started playing in bands, and well, actually, I think we started promoting shows first, and then started playing in bands, and then started touring and stuff like that. Like one of my little brothers, he was touring with his band when he was 15. Um, uh, yeah, so
So did you go all the way around the country
yeah,
touring?
yeah, I did a few tours of the country and some like some smaller like half tours. Um,
And so how did you make the transition from music to film? How did that happen? Can
well,
you share?
my brothers and I had always been making films and making shorts. We had a sketch comedy show that we made called The Geeks, which we were named after the the term geek originated from it was a circus sideshow act where they would like bite the heads off live chickens. Yeah, it's kind of weird. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
what we were named after. um, but kind of morbid, right? But so we did sketches of those. We would do sketch comedy, and mostly only our family would see that, like our relatives and stuff. But they egged us on, to keep making things, and from there started working with some friends that were older who had gone to film school on some of their stuff, and doing stuff with friends. And then eventually a friend's dad who had worked on Law and Order for quite a while and had offered to get me on there years before, but I didn't feel like I was ready. Um, I was just like, hey, yeah, can I still work on Law and Order? He was like, yeah, I can get you there tomorrow.
Wow.
So that's El Marco. And a lot of people in the New York film industry think he's actually my uncle, because having a family member in the union holds weight. So he just told everyone that I was his nephew.
That's
And
so cool.
some people who were paying attention were like, so wait a second, your uncle's Italian.
I love
And you're
it.
Mexican. So there's people that know he's not really my uncle. But yeah,
That's so
he's a good friend.
sweet. That is such a nice friend to have done that for you, and kind of like extended family, if you will, because
Yeah, definitely.
and it seems, that's how it was, right? You had to know someone to get in, whether they were worked in the property department in the union, or like your uncle Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was easily 18 to 20 family members in that crew, like multiple people from same families. So gosh, what was the one? There's like a famous family too of set dressers that I worked with that were part of that show. And they've been in their family's been in the industry for like three or four generations.
I was going to say Westmore, but that's makeup.
No. Gosh, I can't remember. I'm like Joey and JD and Matt. What was their last name? Bell? I can't
Italiano.
remember.
Italiano.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a great set to be on. My mentor on that set was Bob Feltman, and he was actually a musician turned filmmaker. But he was the prop master from season 2 onwards of the Cosby Show. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which used to be a great thing, to tell people.
Yeah, don't.
Now it's not such a brag,
Stay
Yeah.
put. Like,
Yeah, now it's just uncomfortable to talk about.
I mean, it is, but obviously it is a great thing to have on your resume. But I mean, he had nothing to do with what was going on.
No, of course not.
Maybe. We don't
Definitely
know.
not.
Definitely not. You're right. Definitely not.
But yeah, I'm actually going to be making a documentary about Bob coming up because, so like I said, he was a musician turned filmmaker. He studied under, I cannot think of her name, but she's known as like the mother of electronic music because she like invented one of the first synthesizers, and he studied under her in musical composition at Stony Brook University. And he was like producing synth pop songs, and he wrote this once. He was writing a bunch of songs, but he was sending them to labels mostly in the UK because they were like the only labels that were doing synth pop in the very early 80s. And he never heard anything back. And then one day on the radio, he heard one of his songs, Take on Me.
Oh my God.
So, but he had no way to do anything about it. He had no like way to prove at the time, it was just kind of his word against the labels. And so he really was never able to do anything about it. But he has like some correspondence with the label, and he has his original reel-to-reels and some other dated materials. And the song was originally like a duel. And the original lyrics of the chorus were, I challenge you to take on me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So, which kind of makes it even, it's like, it's kind of perfect for the documentary too,
That's amazing. Wait. But I'm sorry. Did this have something to do with Wendy or no? Was it Wendy Carlos or no? Was that?
I don't know. Who's Wendy Carlos?
I thought she had something to do with the birth of synth pop, but maybe.
Okay. That might. I'm bad with names, so that might be her name. I really can't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd have to look it up.
That's all right. But this is such an amazing. This would be such an amazing documentary, though.
Yeah.
And what is the name of the documentary, Adam?
I don't know yet. It's
Okay.
entitled. I mean, we haven't started working on it yet. He also lives in Spain at this point.
Is it Take Me On?
Maybe that's a good one.
Take Me On, Carlos. Take Me On, Wendy. Wendy, please take me on. I don't know. If you need a comedic slant to it or someone to interview, I'm there for you, Adam Vargas.
Yeah,
I'm your guy.
Me too. I also wanted to say, you have a story with Rita Moreno. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, she was D'Onofrio's mother on Criminal Intent. So she was in a couple episodes. I never could get up the nerve though to tell her, like, I've been watching your films since I was a little kid, you know, like
I'm Mexican. Hello.
Yeah. Like, hi. And you know, like I should have said something because like my aunt was like, how did you not get a picture with her? You know, like but yeah, it was too nerve-wracking to say anything to her other than like, you know, here's your props.
Did you like put jewelry on her or what props?
One episode, I know she was in the hospital. She was like sick for a couple episodes. So I might have put like, you know, some heart monitor on her or something, you know, a pressure cuff or something like that. But
you can even say mi placer or gracias with a shitty accent, where she'd be like, oh, even if you don't, I don't even, do you speak Spanish?
Yeah, un poquito. I definitely had a better handle on it when I was younger.
Or do you speak like Puerto Rican Spanish?
No.
Is that your Spanish? Have they flipped you? Are you?
No, they didn't flip me.
Aren't you also Apache as well?
No, Zuni.
Zuni, I love that.
So I am a little bit Apache, but mostly Zuni. So
I prefer Zoomy as well. That's what I'm using right now.
We're all using Zoomy right now.
We're all using Zoomy right now.
That's via my grandmother.
Were those the very light-skinned natives?
No, she was really dark and
short.
She was really dark. Yeah, very short.
Of course.
And her name is Herminia, but everyone called her Minnie, you know. She was like 4 foot. Gosh, 4'9", 4 foot. I don't remember, but she shrunk too at like her last couple of years.
She got older.
So yeah, she was really small.
But she wasn't in New York though.
No, she was in Michigan. Well, she was in Texas for a long time.
Oh, because is that where your dad was born? Was you said in?
He was born in Michigan.
Oh, he was.
My other aunts and uncles were born in Texas.
Where
or on the road somewhere in a field.
Were they in the fields? Yeah,
because they were migrant workers, but my father wasn't.
Oh, that's how they wound up in Michigan, of course.
Yeah.
And then your dad was one of the last ones born. I'm
guessing. Him and then his brother Teddy.
Yeah.
Passed after
but his brothers, the older brothers, were in the fields.
Yeah.
Making their way through, you know, Ohio. That's where my mom. I mean, she was born in Texas, also, like in the Valley, El Valle, they call it, like close to the Mexican border, and then Ohio.
Yeah.
And they wound up in Chicago, so it makes perfect sense that they would end up in Michigan and Nebraska and stuff like that as they followed the fields and the crops. Yeah. My father was a famous boxer. He used to box tomatoes, mushrooms, asparagus, and yeah. That's horrible. I know it's horrible. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I love this. We're talking about our heritage. All jokes aside, I do love your jokes, Paul, so much. But I do love your heritage, and I think that's why you have this wise demeanor about you, Adam, and it's noble, and it's wise, and I love it. And you also bring a sense of calmness. And would you say that's part of your heritage, or where do you think you get it from?
Yeah, I definitely get that from my dad is very soft spoken. His grandfather was, his father was very soft spoken. Um, yeah, and my dad's a very patient speaker. He takes his time. He listens to people. He mulls over his response. So I get a lot of that from him. He's
Wait,
very
wait.
stoic.
And I love that, and I respect that. And your father's the Mexican one?
Yeah.
Because my father's he was quite the opposite.
He can be loud too.
I feel like I'm in that sketch of Saturday Night Live where she gets abducted by aliens, and the two are like, oh, we had this beautiful experience with my father and my family. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that quite wasn't my experience. My father, but then again, my father was so old. I think when I was born, he was in his 40s when I was born. So, growing up, he was just, I think, done with life. It was just, and he was miserable. He was loud, not Puerto Rican loud, but Mexican loud. He would, that's horrible. He would, it's just abusive, to his family, not to others. But it's wonderful to meet someone like you that's quite the opposite. And I think that's when I see like a little opening or a little weakness, I'm just, not weakness, but an opening, I like fucking go right in there, just like the way my father was. But that's beautiful, the way that you were raised. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, he was quick-witted too, though. And he had this way of he would say the same word or like phrase over and over again, but he would keep changing how he was saying it. And it would sound completely different, and you would get his intention, like, all right, now he's saying it. Like, I can't even replicate it to this day.
The words or the tone of what he was saying?
He could do it. He did it all the time. My dad reads constantly. Like, he probably reads 5 to 7 new books a week. And yeah, as a kid, like, there were always boxes of books coming to our house. Yeah, he would just, I mean, it would be the same. It would always be something new, but he would do the same thing he could say the same word like 12 different times, and it would sound different every single time he said it. And I still don't know how to do this.
My father just got louder.
But I mean, he would do this as jokes,
Yeah.
As like a joke. He would like say something, he would like say a lead up, and then there would be like the word, that was the punchline. But then he would keep saying it different. He would like act the same line or the same word different over and over, reinventing it. And it would just get funnier and funnier.
You know what? That's beautiful. And I feel like in another day or time, like he would have been like a brilliant, I want to say stand-up comedian, because to me that's what I hold in some of the highest regard, but also like a TEDx speaker or someone that has such control of the English language, but also like maybe being also Latino, being raised in Michigan, maybe also added to that. But that's so beautiful that he was able to do that. That's amazing, because I think that anyone that has the ability to do that with language, like, really has so much to offer and so much to share.
Yeah. He's brilliant. And
he's still around.
And hysterical too. Yes. Yeah.
I would love to meet your dad, but don't get mad when he really wants to hang out with me, because
no, I wouldn't. Yeah.
I would love to meet your dad.
My parents are really cool. They have their own lives. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, like I found out from a friend that my mom was interviewed in a book for like a whole chapter. There was like a whole chapter in this book about her, about subcultures, and I'm like,
oh wow.
And he's like, wait, you don't know about this? I'm like, this is first time hearing of it. Like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And my mom was like interviewed for like a month for this book. I've never heard of it. Just like,
Adam, I was
New York Times bestseller too.
Amazing. Honestly, I wanted to invite you to do my podcast, Paul Vato Presents, but
Yes.
no, but I'm gonna have to actually take that back. I'd much rather interview your parents. You know,
yeah, my mom was touring before me and my siblings were. Her and her sisters had a singing group.
Is she also Latina?
No.
Oh, now it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But my grandmother also, she sang on the radio. She sang mariachi on the radio.
Wait, your grandmother on your dad's side?
Yes. Yeah.
And then your mom's white?
Yeah.
From where?
She's all mixed up.
I'm sorry. Is that weird that I'm asking you this? Because
no, it's okay.
Now it makes perfect sense.
It's okay.
Why you're the tallest? I can only assume that you're tall.
I'm not that tall.
You're like
I'm the shortest. My sisters are almost as tall as me.
You're like the whitest Latino I've ever met. So
I have a really bright white light on my face.
You think that's it?
It's
yeah,
the lighting.
But my kids also like to point out that they're darker than me.
You know what? That was my next question.
My son all the time, he'll be like, Dad, look how dark I am to you.
So this is horrible. Your wife's black.
No. She's Sicilian and European mutt.
That's black. So
yeah.
No, your kids are beautiful.
AJ is trying to disappear into the background right now.
It's so funny. I may have to pull my camera here just for a second, and that's fine. And then I'm going to pop it back on, and it'll come back in focus now. Ta-da! There we are. But I love this. We're having so much fun, and I did want to mention one other thing about, which is incredible about you, Adam, is that you worked on The Sopranos.
Yeah.
What?
Now,
I have a funny story about that too.
Oh, I want to hear this. But you did stunts. You were a stunt driver. You did props, right, with The Sopranos. Tell us all about it and the funny story.
I did stunt driving on Law and Order. Oh, you're on mute, AJ.
Oh, thank you. I need that. Thank you.
I want to hear.
You're an excellent director.
So, this was funny. It was the night before the last day of shooting the last episode of Sopranos. And my dad says to me, if you see David Chase on set, tell him Doug says hi. And in my mind, I'm just like, wait, what are you talking about, Dad? So my dad only has a handful of friends. There's a lot of people that consider my dad a friend, but like there's only a few people my dad really like turns to. And and one of them is his friend Doug Leith. And so I'm like, you mean Doug Leith, Dad? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, Dad, why would David Chase know Doug? And he's like, oh, I never told you? They've been friends since, they were like 6 or 7. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
He's like, yeah, they they never lost touch through the Rockford Files, et cetera. He's like rattling off David Chase projects. And I'm just like, wait, what? I'm like, Dad, what are you saying right now? I'm like, are you saying I could have been on Sopranos like day 1, scene 1, episode 1?
Wow.
And he's like, oh yeah, but I thought you were trying to do this on your own.
Oh my gosh, Adam. That must have blown your mind. that they knew each other, and oh my gosh. So I understand your dad wanted to give you the
So
free.
yeah, and I
Oh,
was like, okay, yeah, thank you. But
yeah,
also I was like, man, you could have told me that years ago.
yeah, right.
Yeah, and so
Paul,
I
you're on mute. Paul, sorry, you're on mute. Go ahead, Paul.
Gracias por nada.
yeah.
Thanks for nothing, Dad.
Exactly. So, but I didn't see David that day. Um, the way they filmed that episode, they would figure out the blocking, pull in just those extras, shoot just whatever lines were for that blocking and only that blocking, and then put those extras on a bus and send them back to New York.
Wow.
Like, get out of Jersey. We don't want you to communicate with anyone on anything you've seen. Have a nice life.
Incredible.
Yeah. So, yeah, wild way to shoot,
So
you know.
that sounds
They
like it
didn't
was.
want anyone knowing anything. And they even would film alternate lines doing this. So to confuse even the people, you know, on what the little bit that they had seen. But so it was like a very, very closed set. Only David, the DP, really, and like a couple producers were, and the scripty were allowed on set as far as crew.
It sounds like it was such a fun workplace. Were you excited to go there
But
each day on the set?
yeah, it was great. But so David wasn't, I didn't get to tell David about Doug, but his cousin who had been on set, David, Doug, and I can't remember his cousin's name now. I want to say it was Daniel or something like that. But they called themselves the Three Musketeers. So he knew Doug too. And so I already knew that the reason he was on set is because him and David were like best friends, you know? So when I saw him, I was like, hey, Dan, my dad told me to tell you that Doug Leith said hi. And like saying the in Leith, his eyes were already filled with tears, like
Oh,
immediately. And he was just like, he's like, wait, who are you? Because he was like, wait, there's someone on the set that knows Doug Leith, like someone who's working here. This is
oh my
weird.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just like grabbed me and hugged me and thanked me. And he was like, do you have Doug's number? Like, so I could call him, you know? And so I got his number from my dad and gave it to him. And, you know, I was like, yeah, tell David he says hi, you know, and he's like, oh, I definitely will. Definitely will. But yeah, it was wild. And yeah, porque nada.
Oh, it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful story. So much. I love that. And thank you so much, Adam. And we also
Yeah.
have a movie poster on called The Black Facade. Now we can see part of it, and it's
Yeah.
very intriguing. Can you tell us about that? It's so cool.
So that was my first, that was from my first feature film. I need a little water.
First feature film. Cool.
Yeah,
That's a crazy straw, by the way.
Can we see it
it's a
again?
barber pole.
It really is. Can I get my hair cut? I'm just joking.
It's a barber pole or candy cane or
Yeah, something like that.
love it.
So
Sorry.
I was working on this feature, and it was like a shoot on location, and we were probably 3 or 4 weeks into the shoot. And there was this moment at lunchtime. I sat down at one of the tables, and one of the grips sat across from me and pulled a Clark Kent. He like took off his baseball cap, took off his glasses, and all this long black hair fell out. And I realized I was sitting across the table from Jack Black. And I was like, where have you been hiding this entire film shoot?
Oh my gosh, Adam.
It wasn't really Jack Black. It was just Jack Black's doppelganger.
Oh.
And
okay.
I was like, I instantly had an idea for a film, you know? I was like, do you act? He's like, yeah, I act, I direct, I write, and I grip when I need money. I was like, oh my gosh, this is too perfect. I was like, you just like turned into Jack Black in front of my face. And he's like, yeah, I get that from time to time. And I'm like, yeah, you would get it a lot more if you didn't wear a baseball hat with all your hair up in it and glasses. But on the way home, on the subway home, I like wrote down, you know, my idea, and it was the weekend. So I spent the weekend writing the script, and I sent it to him. And so something else he told me, he was like, I'll do this movie if my friend Ed Cho can be in it. I'm like, okay. And he's like, he just did a special on Comedy Central. I'm like, yeah, of course he can be in it. He's like, and he's friends with Kevin Smith. I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, he's friends with Kevin Smith.
If anything,
I'm like,
if anything, you're fired. He's in.
So I'm like, wait. How is he friends with Kevin Smith? He's like, they've been friends since high school. And I'm like, all right, you got to tell me more about this. He's like, so Ed has always wanted to play Kato from the Green Hornet. And he, ever since Kevin Smith like hit it big and like, you know, like started like doing more movies than just like, once he did Mallrats, Ed was like, all right, you're definitely going to be around Hollywood. Like you should do a Green Hornet remake so I can play Kato.
Is he Asian? No.
He is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, because he grew up idolizing Bruce Lee, you know?
Sure.
So I'm like, all right, perfect. We're going to make your friend Ed Cho, we're going to make him Kato in this film. He's going to be your roommate. He's a limo driver. Like, we're going to do the whole thing. You know, he knows martial arts, all of it. And then,
awesome.
So, I get a producer, you know, we get our funds, we have our schedule, and we're doing rehearsals and stuff. And then Ed calls me 2 days before shooting, and he says, I just landed a commercial with Air China. It's $10,000 a day to do 2 commercials.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, that's more than my budget. I'm like, I think you should take that and forget about my movie.
Oh.
So then I had to recast him. But we ended up, that was like a short that we filmed, and we ended up fleshing it out into a feature. And then, so then I created another character for him in the film. And he ended up being in a large, almost as much of the film as if you had been Kato.
Wow.
But, yeah, it turned out great. And it played at a festival at Tribeca, not to be confused with the Tribeca Film Festival.
A festival in Tribeca?
But the Tribeca Theater.
I'm famous in Hollywood, Florida. I mean, that's basically kind of what you're saying, Adam.
It's still De Niro's theater, Tribeca Theater, but it was there. There used to be 3 different festivals that were held there.
What a scam that De Niro's pulling.
So,
like, hey, this is not the Tribeca Film Festival.
This isn't the Tribeca Film Festival.
You can use my building and call it a film festival in Tribeca. And De Niro owns it. That's a horrible impression. Horrible impression. I get it, but yeah.
No, yeah. It's kind of like that, but
Kudos either way.
but
Forget about it.
it's still cool to play at the theater.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. I loved him in Casino. Okay, all right.
It's not a famous casino. It's way up the very
The movie Casino.
Maron.
Molto bello. Okay.
Molto bella. Please apologize to your
Molto bello
siciliana.
Molto bello pizza. Okay.
Molto bella esposa siciliana.
I'm going to get my tiramisu right now. Well, I'm
Pasta.
Fellini. All right. Okay.
Fellini, sono un molto bello direttore di attores in la tu sua sposa.
Parmigiana. Okay. Now we're gonna
Learn it. Learn Italian, mother.
This is my impersonation of an Italian person speaking Spanish. Che pasta primavera.
Pizza. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Mucho grande.
Mucho grande in tua pasta primavera.
No, che pasta.
Che pasta, way.
I do want to say I've been enjoying this so much, but we got to start wrapping up the show. It went so fast.
I'm going to smoke it like the Germans, this the way, because we are also very much like what's his name, Hitler, and the other, and the Italian dictator. Stalin was Russian, but
Lenin. Sorry,
and Lenin was also Russian.
Who was the Italian?
That
Mussolini.
Mussolini. Speaking of Mussolini, I just want to promote Vato cigars.
If you ever watch Mussolini, I can't believe I couldn't remember his name because I love dictators. Not the emphasis on the dick, but I love dictators. And Mussolini was kind
Taters,
of the
not tasters.
Taters, not tasters. But the way he just went like this, molto bene, welcome to Italy. So I would love to invite you to do my podcast, but I feel like now you're gonna be like, absolutely.
Adam has his own podcast. It's the Time TV Traveler.
TV Time Machine podcast.
What?
Yes.
Can I be on it?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
never
we'd
asked
love
to
to
be
have
on
you on
somebody's podcast except for AJ's.
Can I be on too?
I would love to have you on there.
What is it?
The TV Time Machine podcast. We let our guests pick the topic.
Yeah.
But it always has to be retro TV.
Okay.
So whatever, sometimes, I don't know, guests talk about, whatever. It's like if your favorite genre of TV or.
Do they pick it ahead of time?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I can prepare because I'm sure you're like, got it. I'm the idiot that has to kind of like, all right, for that, I will prepare. I didn't prepare for this, obviously. I only prepare.
I didn't prepare for this.
I only prepare for
I probably should have.
No. I only prepare for like well-known people, famous people, not just, blah, blah, blah. So obviously I didn't prepare for this. Okay.
So I just want to say thank you both. This was amazing. And
I love that AJ's trying to save me from insulting you. But
we're gonna do final thoughts now.
I didn't think I went with the bit. I went with the bit. Commit to the bit, Paul.
I'm gonna do final thoughts. Everything, your life is beautiful. That's what my band says here. And we're gonna do final thoughts. And thank you, Paul, for that. And yes, we want to know all about your podcast. We want to be we want to be
We'll edit this out.
I don't think we are, because
Uh,
if anyone's drunk, it's me. I don't know what's going on with AJ over there.
I've only got water in here. That's all. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I only have
it's all that
water.
elderberry syrup.
it's the elderberry syrup, and it's
That's the
yummy.
whitest thing I've ever heard, by the way. There's no
And
Latino
so we're going to
in
have
his-
final thoughts. We're going to start with you, Paul. Final thoughts over to you, Paul.
You cannot start with me. I can only go after. Are you kidding me? My final thoughts. I would love for you guys to just leave me alone. I'm really sick and tired of having to do podcasts anymore. I'm almost done with my own podcast. No, I'm kidding. Are you kidding me? This has been one of the funnest ones, because I love Adam. Never met him before, and I wish I would have done more homework, because I was shocked before when we did one where I didn't read up on the guest, and he was kind of upset that we didn't know about him. You know who we're talking about.
But you did great. But you did great, Paul.
Of course, I know. Trust me, I always do great. But I love Adam. I want Adam on my podcast, and I also I want to be on his podcast. And I think that Adam and I should do our own podcast, because are you kidding me? Chicano and a Chicago and a Mexican from New York and a Mexican from Chicago. Are you kidding me? Like, this is a match made in heaven. So Adam, and he's so talented. He's a musician. I know nothing about that world. And to me, it's just so, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this and meeting Adam Daniel Vargas, and his son, Adam Daniel Miguel.
Sunshine.
Esteban, blah, 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 Vargas.
I love that. And I love it. And I love Adam too. He's amazing musician, and he plays guitar.
Well, he's kind of a show off, because he's got a cigar. He's got a cigar. I got a cigar. He's got a guitar in the background.
He's incredible.
I got drums behind me too.
Jesus Christ. What a show off. What a show off.
Those are actually my daughters, though.
He's so modest, and he's humble, and he's an incredible artist, and I love him. We love him too. And Adam, we want to be on your podcast. And thank you so much for your time. And over to you for final thoughts, Adam.
Well, thank you for having me on, of course. It was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun chatting with both of you. And yeah, I guess I'll plug the podcast. It's the TV Time Machine podcast. You can get us on Apple, Anchor, or Spotify. My partner on that is Luis Garcia, who he used to be Lee Daniels' assistant for 4 films. Post Monster, he started working with him right after Monster, and he was a really talented casting director, casting assistant, a lot of huge films like Departed and Anger Management, and all the films he worked on, and an amazing actor also. His father was in Hair, the Broadway show, so he has that lineage. But yeah, it's a fun show. We talk about retro TV and have different guests on from time to time. It's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, no, I don't mean to interrupt, but as the director of this podcast, Adam, would you mind doing the exact same thing again, but maybe taking it down a notch? Jesus.
Was that too low?
Yeah, your energy was way too high on that. If you don't mind, just maybe I'm kidding. I'm so sorry. So yeah, you know what? Maybe don't bring me on your podcast. It was so beautiful getting to meet you, Adam, and thank you. I've just never met an ethnic person, Latino person like you that's not over the top loud. And I mean, I would think that you being raised in New York around a lot of Puerto Ricans, you'd be a lot louder, but this is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
You have to see me around my family. It's a different story.
Is it even lower?
I'm one of 8. So no, it's even louder.
Oh, it is okay.
Yeah.
I hope you never take this the wrong
When
way.
I was younger,
love
I
it.
was a lot louder, because
What happened?
you fight to
Oh,
get
you got
heard,
married.
you know. And now I'm just more like my dad. I don't know.
Paul said,
More
but you got
reserved.
married.
Yeah.
Sorry. No offense to your Sicilian wife.
Yeah, I
want
couldn't
her to-
compete with her volume.
I don't want to get whacked.
Hi, I'm 18% Italian, so let's give it up for the Italianos. All right.
Molto bene.
Molto bello.
It's not this. Come on, it's not this.
I don't know how to support the Italians.
Sono di.
Hey.
You got it right there. Okay. So thank you again. Now my final thoughts are, I'm just so thankful and grateful. Adam, you're incredible, and I love this show. I think it's one of my favorites, and I can't wait to publish it. And Paul, you've been phenomenal as always. And I just want to thank you and all our viewers out there. So please keep supporting Adam Vargas, and his partner as well, Luis Garcia, with their podcast show, and support them and follow them, and also support and follow Paul Vato with Paul Vato Presents, amazing podcast. And thank you all as well. And until next time, good night and take care.
Thank you so much.
Mazel tov.